Security at the Olympic Games is tighter than ever. And to provide even more of a security force, 11 members from the Air National Guard's 148th Fighter Wing in Duluth will be a part of this effort.
They are implementing and working with local law enforcement agencies, both federal and state in Georgia. And their uniform they're wearing is the one I have on today.
The Olympic Athletes Village is surrounded by police and barbed wire. The stadium and other venues are also heavily secured. Major Derrick says the 148th will be providing a security presence.
Other efforts are awareness at the different venues, watching the parking lots, watching the billeting, or actually the lodging of the athletes. They're not specifically in an event arena, but maybe mostly in the purview of the outside of the events to make sure things are safe.
Since the tragic explosion of TWA Flight 800 Wednesday, many are wondering how much Olympic security has been beefed up. Major Derrick says the group didn't receive any more security information before they left.
The threat assessment would be conducted by agents down in Georgia, and then as the security policemen landed, they would be given a local threat assessment and then told what their jobs would entail.
The 11 members of the 148th are expected to be a part of the Olympic security throughout the Games. In Duluth, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
Despite the word of security breaches in the Twin Cities and increased fear of terroristic activity after the crash of TWA Flight 800, Duluth International Airport is not tightening security. No one would comment on camera, but airport officials told us the security plan would not change for now. We found that plan to be lacking in at least one area. Baggage was left unattended outside airport cargo doors. We even found the secured cargo door propped open. We walked in with a camera. We were in the room for about a minute until finally asked politely to leave.
Oh, it was just propped open. We didn't know.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
This frightens some passengers.
I guess my general impression is that airport security is not secure enough.
Some travelers we talk to say they know security is lax, but say they don't know what they can do about it.
Because I don't think you can do much about it. I mean, you got to go, right? You got to get somewhere on business, so you got to go.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Thousands of planes fly out of this airport. Some go on United States destinations and other flights go international. Passengers worry it might be a matter of time before something serious happens here. In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
The question is then what happens to the kids? Are the kids at fault for what their parents do? You know, are they going to get food stamps in the Republican bill? Probably not. Are they going to get medical care in the Republican bill? Probably not. Are the parents going to get sliding fee child care like we have in Minnesota? And the answer is no. The Democratic bill.
We've slipped, and now we're saying, no, we're ready to come back and assume our role of being tops.
After a less than flattering report on the poor reading scores of the state's 8th graders, Minnesota's education commissioners looked at and graded a dozen other factors. The bigger picture, how do Minnesota students fare overall? The sole A on their report card went to college entrance exams. Minnesota students rank 5th in the nation in ACT scores. Education funding up 22% over the last 10 years, got a B.
After we factor in inflation and factor in enrollment increases, schools today are getting more money than they ever have in the past.
8th grade reading and math achievement got a C+, and the commissioner said the length of the school year deserves a D because at 175 days, the Minnesota school year is among the shortest. Another D went to the state's dropout rate, up nearly 40% over the last 10 years.
No matter how we calculate our dropout rate, it's clearly getting worse. 1 in 5 of our 9th graders will be dropping out over the next 4 years.
While the commissioners were long on problems, they were short on solutions, despite repeated questions from reporters. And some local teachers who learned of the report card thought it was unfair.
If you rate this with an ABC grade, it would be like if I had my students come in the first day of school, gave them a test and gave them a grade on it, and said, okay, kids, this is what you're doing. Well, if we treated our students the way this looks like we're being treated as an institution, we'd be fired.
If it doesn't work, this mine is gone. This company is shut down, zero. There will be nothing here. There's no reason for this town to exist without this mine.
Right down with my car.
It happens, challenges get made, and there really needs to be an overriding and egregious problem, I think, in order for an endorsement to be invalidated.
Right down with my car. What I believe in is the power that comes from persuasion.
I've been considering this candidacy since December when Florian was thinking about retiring.
Thanks very much, David Gregory from Atlanta. Now, our Tom Hansen was in Atlanta when the bomb went off last night. He joins us now from the Olympic Media Center. Tom, first of all, why don't you just tell us, what was it like?
Bizarre, Ann. A nightmare, perhaps, I still can't believe it happened. I was about a mile away from it. I didn't hear it. I was inside the hotel lobby at the time of where we're staying, and then my supervisor came in, said there's been a bomb, and before you know it, I was on the scene with a couple photographers within 10 to 15 minutes just outside Centennial Park, and it was a mess.
Tom, if you can describe for us what you saw when you did get outside after the bombing. What did you see?
Well, and there were so many people in Centennial Park that the police were evacuating the scene, and so there was people leaving the area. So as we were getting closer and closer to the park, people were actually gushing out. There was police, obviously fire trucks, law enforcement agencies, ambulances, and then, of course, people that were involved. We talked firsthand with some of the people that helped others that were injured and that saw others that were wounded, and they were doing some bleeding, and it was just an unbelievable sight there in Atlanta last night.
We'll talk a little bit about what the feeling is in Atlanta right now after all of this has happened.
Quite simply, and they're stunned. They're stunned that it happened in their town, and they're stunned that it happened here in the Olympics. I guess everybody's kind of thought that, maybe something like this could happen, and especially after what happened on the opening ceremony with a loaded gun coming into the Olympic Stadium there, but they didn't think it actually would take place. And so they're stunned that it would happen, and it certainly has marked and marred this Olympics here in Atlanta.
We did have offers from all around the country, as far away as the state of West Virginia. We opted to adopt him out to local people, somebody from this area, who would care for the pig, not to butcher him.
I have plenty of room out here. I just saw that he was abandoned, and it would be a good place to mix in with my other pets, my other animals, and so I thought I could give him a good home.
We have no more to give to the dominant society. There is no more to take. This is all that we have, is fresh, clear water. We do not want any poison. The madness must stop.
Some members of the Bad River Reservation are seeking answers from their ancestors today for a resolution of a standoff there. The Wisconsin Central Railroad wants to bring in a train carrying sulfuric acid through the reservation, but negotiations with the railroad fell through, and law enforcement has been brought in.
We responded with some personnel to the scene, talked to the protesters for some time, tried to negotiate with them. We were informed by some of the people that were at the scene that there were some guns involved, that some of the protesters had some weapons. When we found out that information, we decided that it wasn't worth escalating into a full-scale problem. We decided to back off.
The protesters say that's not true. They're armed, but with a hunting weapon only.
The only thing we have is our arms connected to our body, our legs, and that's the only thing we're armed with.
Since last night, the Ashland County Sheriff has contacted a representative from Governor Tommy Thompson's office for federal mediation. Hansen says mediation should help solve the problem.
Because we're dealing with federally regulated railroad, an Indian reservation, and potential charges of interstate commerce violations, we feel that a federal mediator would be the way to go here.
Near Ashland, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
This was the frog brought into the Wisconsin DNR from the lake near Iron River by a citizen. And you can see here that there's multiple limbs that are abnormal.
Conference report is adopted. Motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
I ask unanimous consent that it be in order at any time to consider conference reports to accompany the bills.
We'd like to hear what the lady has to say.
The gentleman.
Without objection, so ordered.
Oh, Nelly! 4th and the 5th of July to
I've painted a picture today, so when it's 30 below this winter, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to remember it, how beautiful it was today. Then it won't be so bad.
I won't want to go to Florida. I'll just stay home and paint for my pictures. I take photographs too of
colder. So what do you think about the rain we've been having?
Here, say hi. Wave. You want to be on TV? You want to be on TV?
Julie.
NBC. All right. Okay.
Is this your first time out here?
He's got to get those yellow shoes.
Right there. Keep walking.
On the news? Andy, say hi. Say hi. Say hi.
It was, I think we all knew it was coming, you know, because the business went down and they weren't able to get it back. And so everyone was pretty much, you know, it was a surprise, but yet a, you know, a shock, you know, that type of a deal.
Yes, I am. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to have you go through the supply area. You're going to pick up a pack.
Armed with only a bag full of the necessities, the latest group of firefighting recruits from across Minnesota and Wisconsin arrive for basic fire training. They will go through several days of intense preparation, then head west to the front lines where wildfires are claiming over 4 million acres.
Most of them will have no firefighting experience. This is the reason that we're going through the intensive testing. First of all, the physical portion and now the mental portion. We will give them approximately 40 hours of training this week.
Thank you. Like his fellow trainees, Jody McCormick of Eveleth had to pass strict physical tests in order to go. He's never fought a fire, but says he hopes this experience will help in a career choice while doing some good.
Well, what I want to do is become a police officer sometime, and I've got my degree in law enforcement and everything, and I like to work with emergency response teams and things, but otherwise I think there's a kind of like a little bit of, you know, romanticism to it too. You know, you go out there and do something right, you know, or something that needs to be done, and come back feeling a little bit better.
Here's where the crews will sleep during the next 3 days of intense training. They will then trade cots for the ground out west, where they'll only have gear packs like this and the knowledge they've learned this week. Unlike the other Jody, Jody Stromdahl of Duluth has been fighting fire since 1992, and this time she's a squad boss. She'll help the others through the upcoming weeks.
Adventure is most of it, I think. They're going to learn how to adapt to the outdoors. No, I don't know. Learn how to fight fire.
Now that everyone is set to look like firefighters, they will now get the experience to be one. In Grand Rapids, Minnesota, Ann Carroll for NBC News.
And Superior's been very, very good to me. It's a very safe place, and I'm hoping to help make it even a more safe and secure area to live.
He has vowed revenge on the group that put him away. But we're hoping that maybe he will have a change of heart, but I doubt it. Sure, we're fearful for our lives, for our property, or, you know, whatever, because Sam is dangerous. He's a dangerous person.
Our big project is restoration. If you take a look at the mansion, you can see only part of the exterior is completed, and we would like to complete the exterior of the mansion hopefully next year.
There is a need for kids to be monitored at home a little bit, so parents can have the reassurance that they're home safe.
Patty Kinsman worried that this could be a problem she might face one day when her kids are older. So she and her husband came up with a solution they call CompuVoice. It's a computer program that calls the children of working parents to make sure they arrived home safely.
When the child gets home from school, about 10 to 15 minutes after that, the computer will call the child, and the child will pick up the phone and it'll get a message.
Parents have the choice of using either a standard message or customizing their own. Tyler's dad left this message for him.
Hello, Tyler. I hope you had a good day at school today. Please do your homework before watching TV. See you at 5:30. If everything is okay, push 1 on the phone now, or push 0 if you want mom or dad to call you.
And then if there's no response, then the computer will call mom and dad at work, or a friend or relative, whoever the parents desire to be called.
If the designated contact doesn't answer, the computer will keep calling until they reach them. Patty says the service will benefit parents as well as children.
So they can feel safe, while they're at work, and that their child is at home and okay and checked on.
Push 1 on the
In
phone
Duluth,
now,
Molly Boyum,
or
Channel
push
6
0
News.
if you want mom or dad to call you.
The problem of traffic congestion on Superior Street is an easy one to measure. Thousands of cars travel the street every day, and hundreds seek parking spaces on each side of the road. The trade-off was made almost a year ago. More parking space for less driving space. City officials say it's been a step in the right direction.
One of the best things you can do for a business district is to slow traffic down, and the congestion is good. The old engineer theory of make cars move fast simply results in more accidents and negative effects on businesses, on pedestrians.
The sacrifice of an extra driving lane on Superior Street has many drivers frustrated. But the extra space created with the new diagonal parking system has made the downtown area much more friendly for business traffic. Local merchants say they're pleased with the improvement.
Well, definitely there's more traffic. More people seem to be coming downtown. It's been a lot better since they've also implemented the 1-hour parking and enforced it with ticketing.
It has helped us quite a bit because we have customers say, well, I found a place we can park now and get into your store.
On any given day at rush hour, intersections are clogged, tempers flare, and frustration grows. But city officials say more serious changes may be in store for the future.
This plan was intended to be a first step, and our next step will be looking at improvements that actually might involve some construction. We attempted to do this with minimal cost, so we didn't actually change the location of curb signals, that kind of thing.
Traffic and parking problems on Superior Street may always be somewhat of a controversy, but for now, all we can do is plan ahead and make the necessary adjustments. In Duluth, Jason Rice for Channel 6 News.
The memorial was silently unveiled by the son and daughter Irv Clemens left behind. Those gathered in the Carleton County Courthouse quietly reflected on the man they remembered as friend, co-worker, and defender of the peace.
While a gunman may have senselessly robbed us of Irv's smiling face and his friendship, the criminal did not put an end to the spirit of this great officer, this great husband, and this great father.
Deputy Clemens was killed on August 26, 1993, as he tried to rescue a senior citizen who was being held hostage by his son. 42-year-old Donald Polson of Moose Lake had gone off his medication for paranoid schizophrenia. On this day, 3 years ago, he became violent and shot Deputy Clemens to death. Each year since that tragic day, Deputy Clemens has been remembered as an officer and a gentleman.
Lord, you have called one of us home to glory. The race with life for this one is now done. May time never erase the sacrifice that was made.
This memorial on the wall of the Carleton County Courthouse serves not only as a tribute to a man who gave everything, but also as a stark reminder to all who pass by that a moment of violence continues to affect lives for years to come.
If this memorial makes one person give pause to think about the grief and suffering that a senseless act of violence can cause, then Irv is still helping us today and will forever.
The memorial is also intended to serve as a warning to other officers of the danger they face and a reminder of the care they must take.
We all pray that no other officer has to be honored because of such a death.
In Carleton County, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Who knows how you might feel about it. I don't think that they're making the right decision. If it
relishes his role, sort of the role that he has carved in Minnesota voters as they study the issues over the next 2 months.
That I don't think the Democrats could have picked anyone better to carry that.
It seems to me that the one thing that's not going to get talked about at this Democratic convention is anything that happened in the first 2 years of the Clinton administration when they had control of the Congress and the presidency.
And I think, just to add on to that,
speakers last night, the Brady's who actually used to be Republicans, and also Christopher Lee, but
Oh, I'd have to check. This particular rash of them kind of came out of the blue. Yeah, there's been no indication. There was one other incident here a couple days ago involving a vehicle that was set on fire. Whether there's any relationship between that incident and these incidents, I won't even speculate on it.
People in this West Duluth neighborhood say they want this house torn down. Last March, police raided the house and found 100 animals living there. The animals were removed and the occupant was ordered to clean up. But neighbors say that hasn't happened.
It wasn't too long when she was back in the house. Already has animals back in the house. The police have been there on a couple of different occasions and found dogs back in the house with fresh feces again.
In fact, the police have returned to the house another 10 times. Complaints include animals and juveniles in the house, burglaries, and other disturbances. The neighbors want it demolished.
So we as the taxpayers are supposed to be paying for her house to get fixed up and put her back in there again. And we don't feel this is right.
Duluth City inspectors say it is cheaper to tear this house down than it is to clean it. Demolition costs are approximately $3,000 compared to $14,000 to clean it. But the building inspector has delayed demolition several times, giving the owner additional chances each time to clean up the property.
All the neighbors, the police, the city attorney, the city inspector want the house demolished. We all do because the condition has been so bad.
The neighborhood is now petitioning to force the city to demolish the condemned house. In Duluth, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News.
I guess Teddy was a special friend, and me, Sarah, and she had him all the time with her.
Teddy Bear, back to our organization, which
She was active just like I am, you know, and she always encouraged me with basketball and to keep going, and she was just always there for you. She did anything that you wanted her to do. She was a great friend. This is her name is my little rabbit. His name's Mr. Henry. she pierced his ears and stuff. She does that to most of her animals, but she mainly took care of him.
In an average year, Don Schmidt wouldn't be chopping this corn for cattle feed yet. It's not quite mature enough. But this isn't an average year, it's the year of grasshoppers.
That's right, it started early this spring. I noticed when they was maybe just a 1/4 inch long.
Yeah.
And that's how they got worse.
And so Schmidt is chopping the corn before the grasshoppers get it. They've already devastated Schmidt's other cornfields about a ½ mile away.
All we got left on the other strips is the stalk.
Schmidt planted alternating strips of wheat and corn, and when the wheat got ripe and was harvested, the hoppers moved into the corn, but not before damaging the wheat.
There's a lot of damage there too. Some fields worse than the next ones. You know, I've seen a lot of heads laying on the ground.
So it cut into the yield?
Oh yes.
Some hoppers are reaching maturity now, breeding and laying eggs. Officials had predicted there would be some grasshopper problem areas this year based on conditions last fall as eggs were being laid, but no one expected grasshoppers would be so numerous over such a wide area and would do so much damage as they have done this year. Schmidt worries they could be worse next year. Al Gustin, Meyer Television News.
But it was sore throats and swollen glands, and then bleeding. Our noses would bleed.
Chris Flowers has trouble walking across the room. She says her problems began when she started working in this building at the Medical College of Georgia.
When I first started working there, it wasn't long. I hadn't been there long. I can't tell you how long because I wasn't expecting weeks. And I started having fatigue and bad sinuses and sore throats and just general feeling of lethargy.
Chris has been tested for everything. She has flu-like symptoms, but no flu. Trouble breathing, but no lung problems. A sore throat, low-grade fevers, and joint pain. Her doctors say she has sick building syndrome, and the more she works, the worse it gets.
It progressed now. It wasn't, you know, in the beginning. It just progressed, and I would, on weekends, you always get better. Or even in the beginning, if you just would go to lunch.
There is a really and truly a sick building syndrome.
Dr. Chris House is an allergist in Augusta. He says this happens more often than you think.
The thing that sick building syndromes all have in common is the relationship of the symptoms to exposure in the building after a variable period of time, sometimes 30 minutes to an hour after entering the building.
Generally, these sick buildings have structural damage or faulty ventilation, problems like MCG is trying to repair.
Typically, it may get worse during the work week and then clear up on the weekends or on vacation when the person is out of that area.
Chris has been out of the area for over a month, and some of her symptoms are going away.
I haven't had a headache in almost 5 weeks.
But Chris still deals with nausea and dizzy spells, and for now the only prescription to get better is to stay away from work.
They're dramatically strapped in, and frankly, if 5 officers, there's only one on the street. So if we have 100, will not quote exactly from the chief, but from the counselors, I've heard that it might not, and do what they want to do. Once people feel that safety, I think they become more involved. They become more involved in neighborhood activities and different things. And so I think that's the healthiness of the community. I definitely agree that we're not the answer, but we're part of the solution.
We do want to be
Nania Bear and Janora Dansell of Baltimore are a lesbian couple who want to tie the knot legally.
When there is a time of crisis, we will have equal protection. The rights and benefits associated with marriage are very important.
But congressional conservatives are alarmed that Bear and Dansell want legal protection to marry and filed suit in Hawaii to get it. Today, the Senate began debate on the Defense of Marriage Act. The bill defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman, while allowing states to recognize gay marriage within their own boundaries if they want to, but not require other states to honor that recognition. Debate went on most of the day, supporters saying this:
if our society is one that we treasure and one that we admire and love, it will be a society that respects and recognizes the special status of the traditional family.
Opponents saying this:
this is not fundamentally a same-sex marriage act. This is federal permission to some states to ignore what other states have mandated. That is a very large step. It is indeed. And I would add only that it is a very large backward step.
And gay and lesbian leaders calling it all a cheap election year stunt.
Congress, in a frenzy of election year posturing, is jumping into the act.
The bill now goes to President Clinton. He says he'll sign it, but Bear and Dansell promise to continue their fight in court. Bob Beard for NBC News, Washington.
Jenny Dotson and Amy Heilig. And hi. Chrissy.
Chrissy.
Yep.
Last name?
Denny.
Make me be loud so I can't get out.
Since the Munger State Trail was paved in 1987, it has been used by thousands of people for a variety of recreational pastimes. Of all uses, the winter brings more traffic to the trail than any other time of year. But snowmobiles with carbide-studded tracks take their toll on the 75-mile stretch of pavement. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources supervises the Munger Trail. DNR officials say the situation is a difficult one to solve. Snowmobiling is a billion-dollar industry in Minnesota, and carbide studs are a popular feature on the machines because of the added performance and control they provide. But at the same time, studs dig into pavement and actually pull rocks out of the asphalt. Snowmobiles do damage the state's trail systems, but the snowmobilers contend that it's their money paying for the upkeep and maintenance of the state trails.
Most of the money's used, we feel, is snowmobile monies. And you have two kinds of damage. You have damage from the snowmobile riders or the studs. You have damage just that Mother Nature creates, the cracks in the blacktop, Jason, the roots from the trees that break it up, the washouts, this type of thing. we're, you know, snowmobile monies is paying for most of the maintenance, whether it be from Mother Nature or the other.
The DNR says there are several options that could help alleviate the problem of trail damage. And the snowmobile riders are in agreement that something has to be done to preserve the trail and keep all types of trail users happy.
I see possibly more maintenance money, non-motorized maintenance money going into to pay that portion of, you know, trail wear and tear just from Mother Nature. A rider awareness program that's telling riders, hey, please don't accelerate on the, you know, on the stops and the approaches and ramps and so on. An issue, possibly even looking at different types of materials in the studs.
For now, the issue is under research by the DNR. Trail superintendents say there may come a day when stud use will be either limited or prohibited. But until then, snowmobilers will have every right to ride, with or without carbide studs. In Moose Lake, Jason Rice, Channel 6 News.
Go Green Bay!
Vikings rule. You know?
Vikings rule, my foot.
It all started 23 years ago when Bob and Corky Heller of Duluth got married. Little did Bob know at the time just how big a packer-backer Corky was. And I mean huge.
Well, when I was younger, I couldn't figure out why Bud Grant, you know, I was little and I couldn't figure out why Bud Grant, being from Wisconsin, was in Minnesota.
But it should be an interesting game. I don't expect, with Reggie White, I have a lot of respect for him. But I don't expect Green Bay. I don't expect Green Bay to come within 20 points.
But it's not just Bob Corky is up against. She lives with a house full of Vikings fans, including her 3 teenage sons.
This is Minnesota, and we should cheer for the home team. But Mom, she has to be the strange one in the bunch and cheer for whatever you want to call them over there across the bridge.
I don't see the blowout games that the Packers are having.
Yeah, look at who the Packers played, eh? They're a bunch of has-beens.
Things have gotten so out of control at this house, Corky isn't allowed inside to watch Packer games. She's sent here to the garage with just a radio and her Packer pom-poms. Her most prized possession isn't worthy of the coat closet. It hangs in the hallway. And she'll only surf the net if her Packer mouse pad hasn't been taken away.
It goes on continuously. The Packers are getting knocked from one end of this house to the other, probably down the block and across the street, you know, and no matter what I say,
you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
The Hellers say this is one of the most heated weeks as they gear up for the border battle, the battle of the undefeated Sunday afternoon at the Dome. But as the big game draws closer, Corky is brushing up on her Packer touchdown victory cheer.
Go, you Viking people, back to your Viking land. Go, you Viking people, go.
In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
You're all done. For most of us, getting a shot isn't fun, but this one can save your life, and these folks don't seem to mind it. How did it feel?
Nothing to it, just a little pick and that's it.
I don't even know I got it. You should have got some of the shots we got in the Army. Then you knew you were getting shots.
And since this shot fights the flu, it also reduces your chances of getting the fever, chills, cough, and muscle aches that go along with it. You may not realize it, but the flu can be devastating, especially to high-risk groups like the elderly. In fact, every year, 10,000 people die from the flu and its complications. You're also considered at risk if your immune system is lower because of conditions like diabetes, kidney disease, asthma, cancer, and AIDS. The bottom line, experts say your best weapon against the flu is this vaccine.
It stimulates the body to make its own immunity to the flu. It uses dead viruses, so you're not going to get many side effects, and it'll prevent you from the flu.
These people know they're taking care of themselves now to prevent the flu in the future.
Because I figured that at my age, I better start protecting myself.
And it must be working. Vernon's about to turn 80, and he says he's never felt better. For NBC News, I'm Diana Penna.
Make sure you're okay. Thank you very much.
When the ambulance rolls in, the emergency room staff knows they have to go into action, taking care of the patient. What you need to know is how to handle the situation before it gets here. The most important thing you can do is stay calm and take control.
And if you stay calm, the patient will look at you as saying, how am I doing? If they see that you're calm, then they'll say, geez, I'm really not doing that bad. But if you look anxious and excited, the patient gets a little more nervous.
Unfortunately, emergencies are unexpected. They can happen anywhere at any time. In fact, a new report by the National Safety Council shows fatal injuries are on the rise. Every year, more and more people are dying from motor vehicle crashes. Many involve drinking and driving. Several thousand fatal injuries are also caused by poisonings, falls, drownings, fires and burns, and unintentional firearm injuries. Personal tragedies that can sometimes be prevented.
It costs society. The money is astronomical, but more importantly is the suffering that occurs to those who are left behind.
Here's some safety tips for your home. Lock up medicines and chemicals. Have banisters for stairways. Add grab railers in your bathroom. Keep walkways lit. Periodically check fire alarms and smoke detectors to make sure they're in good working order. Check the batteries too, and keep electrical cords untangled. For NBC News, I'm Diana Penna.
Entered the old Met Stadium, there was a little something extra at stake for Sutherland, bragging rights.
But it was a special game every time you played the Packers. My being from Wisconsin, it was exciting and it brought a little bit of extra, but you can't play any harder in games like that or play harder in Super Bowl games, or you have to play them, they're all the same.
The Vikings once again played championship-style defense.
The Minnesota-Wisconsin rivalry is now something Sutherland deals with every day. See, he spends most of his time in Wisconsin, but coaches football at UMD. So who does he cheer for when it comes to the border battle? Sutherland says it comes down to the best team, and that just might be the Packers. This year, anyway.
They can win anywhere. They have a lot of talent, and like I say, they should win, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. Back in the good old days when the Vikings were, young in the league and the Packers were rolling, the Vikings used to beat them. So there's no guarantee because you have the best team that you're going to win. You have to go out and play it.
Tonight, together forever. But what happens if you leave her? Never underestimate the power of a woman scorned.
Don't get mad, get everything.
The real First Wives Club. NBC Nightly News tonight.
Last week, a local park was a mess destroyed by vandals. Today, elementary school kids worked to clean it up. I'm Michelle Lee. At 6 tonight, we'll take you to Lincoln Park, where a group of kids are taking back their park and their community. Tonight on the Channel 6 o'clock news.
Katie Reed is sitting in the back here. Katie, stand up.
Kids use drugs when adults use drugs, at night and on the weekends. Schools are not in session. Parents are in charge. Parents should be in charge, maybe I should say.
General McCaffrey was referring to.
Now, it seems to me what they also
in Roberts Village, a public housing community. And
that. And so Pride and other programs, it seemed to me, are right on the center of mass of what we're trying to achieve in the drug strategy. Now, bluntly, President
There is no method of when it's going to explode. It can explode almost immediately. It can explode in 2 hours. It may not explode. And what scares me is with the people making these devices is that they don't know when it's going to explode. And
Well, the study has taken almost 2 years, I guess, but we took about a year to collect the data and another year to finish the analyses and write the report.
I will defend the assumption that if an exposure...
I wasn't called and asked about...
I am sure that there are people that we didn't reach.
The serious illnesses, that's right.
As I said, this is not really the study to answer that question. We look with asthma symptoms and exposure.
June 30th, 1992 was the day many now call Toxic Tuesday. A rail car derailed, spilling 26,000 gallons of benzene and other chemicals into the Nemadji River. A gaseous cloud drifted for miles shortly afterward, sending 103 people to local hospitals with complaints of nausea and breathing problems. But just how toxic was Toxic Tuesday? Results of a study were presented in the town of Superior last night to answer just that. But some didn't get the answers they were looking for.
I think a lot of people were upset about the results. We didn't think that they were accurate, that they had the correct information, and they didn't interview the right amount of people. They left out a lot of sick people.
The study, conducted by the Center for Environmental Epidemiology, says there is no evidence showing long-term health problems tied to the spill. Dr. Robert Morris headed the study and says the research was thorough.
We did a telephone survey, and plus we did some analyses to look at where the chemicals that were spilled had gone. We tried to look at what was in the cloud, and then looked at the associations between exposure based on those estimations and the health effects. We looked at a range of health effects, particularly respiratory effects.
There's a class action suit set for trial next year in Douglas County. But in the meantime, questions remain, and the search for closure to the Toxic Tuesday events goes on.
I'm hoping that a lot of people won't let it rest, and we'll continue and try to find more answers.
In the town of Superior, I'm Jason Rice for Channel 6 News.
And mad, and I'm glad.
It was never approved, it was never disapproved.
It was a free response. But I think the motion suggests that we have a meeting with the State Department. I think board, a part of the school board approval
is that whatever we come up with, the burden needs to be lifted off the shoulders of the students of color who are getting turned away from schools that they wish to go to.
Resolution from the DSEC Council to ask them to do
application of this 15 additional %. My motion was that that a request be made to the State Department of Education to meet with the
target first-time offender.
We're in trouble economically, and that also has a downward spiral, which we don't want to be involved with, which is why this is so important. The objectives of our crime package, then, are to reverse the violent juvenile crime trend, significantly reduce the adult and juvenile recidivism rate, and target the first-time offender, and this is critical. The government
Bethany was a wonderful, sweet, kind, gentle little girl who loved to hug and cuddle. Her favorite thing was to cuddle and watch a movie. She loved her big brother. She idolized him. She followed him around all the time. And she called him brother. And he really misses her. And we really miss her. We want her back.
All the Stresso family has left of their baby are pictures and videos of the little girl that brightened so many people's lives. This video shows 6-year-old Bethany doing what she loved best, dancing. It would be one of the last things she did in her short life.
After school, we had supper, and then we went to dance class, and we voted. And then we went to Bible class, and so she was in her little dance outfit when she died.
The Stressos are angry. They want their baby back, but know that will never happen. The next best thing, they say, is making sure no one else loses their child to a drunken driver.
That's another thing, too. I am very much angry. I'm very much angry that people allow other people to go out in this condition and that people do it.
Ed and Laura Stresso have offered to act as spokespeople for the group Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but not until their wounds, psychological and physical, are healed. Their 8-year-old son suffered a severely broken leg in the accident and needed surgery. He is still recovering.
My son spent his 8th birthday in the hospital and learned the day before his birthday that his sister was dead. He has bolts in his leg, and he's got a lot of pain.
The Stressos are hoping for quick justice when this case goes to court, but experts in this area say justice might not be so swift.
The person that killed your daughter is not in jail, still roaming free, probably still driving a car, and probably still driving while intoxicated. Number two, even when that person begins to enter the legal system, it's months and months and months of delay.
The fact that the man charged in their daughter's death remains free as he awaits trial angers Ed Stresso.
A car is a weapon along with a gun. Either one can be used to kill, as we found out. I feel if I was out with a gun and had been suspected of doing some damage to somebody, they would put me in jail until everything was sorted out.
Stephen Oakstad's blood alcohol count at the time of this accident was .23, more than twice the legal limit. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
I personally don't swim in it, and there are people that do swim in it, and I know they try to limit the contact with the bottom. I just don't think it's worth the risk.
And I'm enjoying the party. The people are nice. I see the aliens are here. And being ignored over here.
Well, the Granada got to us rather quickly. Captain Gary was already on station by Pie Island, as well as the Thunder Bay Coast Guard. The difficulties, as you could imagine, in getting a tow line hooked up were really extreme. Captain Gary and his crew were operating a tug in 15-foot seas, places with decks completely iced, and Captain Gary was very concerned about his crew as well as our welfare, and that's when he made the decision to have us jump aboard. You got to realize Lake Superior can turn on you at any time, and she showed it to us the other night, and if I had to relive the experience again to help someone else, I would certainly do it.
I have noticed such a difference in not only our children but our staff. Our children feel safe here. It's a nice, inviting environment for them. So truly we've met our goals at making everything child size and child ready.
So it goes from TV monitor.
He was doing a little educating, showing slides to help news people understand what he was talking about.
This is what it looks like. This is kind of like looking at the Milky Way. You see all this signal here, and this is all HIV signal.
HIV signal indicates HIV virus in lymphatic tissue like the tonsils of a person with AIDS.
But when we capture this image on a computer screen, that image doesn't show up well here. This is the same image, but we filtered out the light, and then you can...
Dr. Keith Henry was talking about a method developed by the University of Minnesota and St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center to count HIV viruses in lymphatic tissue. Until now, they've only been able to do that in blood.
Our data from this study suggests that on the average, there's about 1,000 times more virus per gram of lymphatic tissue than per gram of blood.
In video supplied by St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center, they've combined a microscope, a TV camera, and a computer so they can see how a specific treatment affects the number of HIV viruses in lymphatic tissue, where they're stored and where they reproduce.
We're turning the tide on a terrible disease. We're not, don't have all the answers, but it's moving in a positive direction.
Dr. Henry did not say any cures to any diseases are just around the corner because of this tool, but he did say it is a powerful tool, and it will be used to help find cures to diseases in addition to AIDS.
We don't have any reason to believe that they personally were acquainted. All she would say is that she thought she had seen him in the downtown area before.
In Nollenberger should receive that package that we can plan. And we should make it more presentable, more attractive. And I think that it's an open, the last open Lakeview property that we have available. And if we blow it, we have blown it forever.
Yeah, we won't build.
Does this look pretty good?
The reality is that these guys quite often are armed. We are taking guns off the street almost every night.
Gangs and guns are part of the job for Police Sergeant Mike Martin. Patrolling Minneapolis North Side, it doesn't take long to find either.
We got shots fired right up the street here.
One party running south.
Car 45's in the area.
We arrive in seconds to find no suspects and no witnesses.
Just another night on the north side.
Martin's specially trained gangs unit is part of a city attempt to turn around a homicide record that has people calling Minneapolis Murderapolis. His officers are tough and businesslike.
You got any weapons on you? No? Nothing? Any narcotics? Anything like that? Keep your hands on the car and don't be reaching down towards your waist, then we won't get nervous, all right?
They show gang members respect, but no mercy.
But a lot of times the violent crime that you're going to see is going to involve gang members because they are predisposed to being violent.
Approximately 17 years old, possibly seen with a rifle.
Almost on cue, the violence continues with a shooting on the north side.
Hey, Beach, what's up, man? These guys are from Duluth. What, is this a homicide?
He's at the hospital now.
The victim has been shot several times in the chest. 4 spent cartridges from the shooter's .380 caliber handgun litter the ground. Inside the house are the victim's bloody clothes and a friend who describes what happened.
It was just how he was sitting outside the door.
The victim was?
And the dude just walked up on him from behind and shot him.
Shot him from behind?
He shot him from the front.
How many times did he get hit?
4 times.
For 60 days this summer, a team of state troopers and 2 helicopters joined Minneapolis cops patrolling these neighborhoods. The experiment cost over $250,000, but it may keep Minneapolis from setting a new murder record this year. Back on the street, officers move in on a car said to contain a murder suspect.
We got one running from us now westbound through the alley.
This time it's a foot chase with guns drawn through several blocks before one suspect is caught.
Why are you running from us?
I know who y'all was.
You didn't know who we were?
No.
Maybe the red lights on top and the big white car with the spotlights gave us away.
Just another night on the streets of North Minneapolis.
Huh? I'm working. I'm a working man. I got a child, all that.
Let me see your arm once.
Yes, I've definitely noticed an increase in the holiday traffic, especially with the arrival of our poinsettias, our wreaths, and our holiday ornaments. I've also noticed that the people are really getting into the holiday spirit, and that's good to see.
Timber is not the word this group of people want to hear. That's why they're camped out in the middle of the Superior National Forest. Earth First, an environmental group, is protesting the logging of about 3,500 old-growth red and white pines.
We're out here to try to bring attention to the logging of the big woods here. New old-growth forests. Trying to protect what little there is left in Minnesota as far as biodiversity and the white and red pines that are up here.
Early this morning, the group successfully blocked the loggers by building this campfire and chaining themselves to a logging truck. The stand of trees they want to protect is one of a number across the Superior. The red and white pines are 100 to 120 years old. The tract sold for about $195,000 to an area log home builder. The Forest Service says they stopped the logging for today, but the trees will still be cut.
Yeah, when this first came up, we did go back out there and look at the sale again. We looked at the stand, we looked at the area surrounding it, and we feel that we still had a good what we call a silvicultural call, meaning we felt pretty good about our decision on the ground and that we would continue with that.
Earth First members say they will camp out here as long as it takes to stop the logging of old-growth timber for good. In the Superior National Forest, Angela Wang, Channel 6 News.
Who they had at that house.
I think so. Unfortunately, we don't have that information yet, and I guess
in most cases like this, there's a lot of conflicting information that you gather up. But our investigation has a ways to go yet. There's still a number of people we need to talk to in interviews.
You want another card over?
And our concern, of course, is for those persons that mailed after 2 p.m. on Saturday, December 14th, until 9 a.m. yesterday morning, Sunday morning, the 15th, that they report that to us.
So, what do you feel the extent of vandalism is?
Well, in terms of the mail mix, we're hoping that people were utilizing the Mount Royal station, that there wasn't a great deal of mail. Of course, it's a federal crime in terms of people obstructing.
Repeated the next day on Channel 50 at noon and 10 p.m.
Anything, and the problem's still there. It's not going to go away through education.
The report that was requested really, in and of itself, says, in my view, very little. You have to look beyond those individual tickets.
Councilor requested this. This is Councilor Nolan and Gramala.
On that board position should be filled by January, and the matter of the use of MC cable within the city will be.
This is obvious, maybe one of the reasons why we're doing the plan of attack.
Here's where it starts. First, donors register. You'll go through a mini physical, a pulse and blood pressure check, as well as blood typing and a hepatitis screen. Next, a nurse takes a single drop of your blood by pricking your ear. This is done to make sure you have enough iron. Then your medical history is taken. Pretty simple, yet scary for first-timers.
Usually people who are first-time donors, they're afraid because it's fear of the unknown. Once they start to donate, then they find out it's not as bad as they thought it was.
For longtime donor John Lampman, giving blood is pain-free.
You feel a little picked, but that's about it.
You should also know becoming a donor is safe. Needles are sterile and only used once. When you donate blood, only a pint is taken. Now, we have between 10 and 12 pints of blood in our bodies, so when you give blood, you're only sharing your reserve unit. Another plus, your body replaces what you give. If you still have doubts, listen to advice from folks who know firsthand.
I'd say to give it a try, and the rewarding feeling that you get from it is very nice.
It's very easy and it doesn't hurt, and you're giving a gift of life to someone that may need it.
For NBC News, I'm Diana Penna.
I really have fun, and especially this year, the show is great. And you know, when you're enjoying your work, you're doing, it's fun to work. So maybe for another few years.
Well, they get a lot of height and they're really good.
Starting today, I challenge us to add at least 1,000 more new jobs in the next 3 years. It's another aggressive goal, but I know we're up to it. We'll just have to make room. I now have the pleasure of introducing the 12 outstanding city employees of the month for 1996, who are seated to your right. In a few minutes, I will introduce one of these people.
I can tell you this, that he was very current in night operations. He had flown the previous night.
Major Peter Woodbury has accumulated more than 2,600 hours of flight time, nearly 1,200 hours in the F-16 alone. In fact, he is the third most experienced F-16 pilot at the base. Friends and family we spoke with say Major Woodbury lives to fly, fulfilling a lifelong dream of becoming a pilot.
He's a good fellow. He's a very fine fellow. He's a wonderful family man and an inspiration to anybody that wants to become a pilot. He would be your example.
Major Woodbury is married with 3 children. Family describe him as a level-headed, nice guy who loves to send postcards from everywhere he's been. Major Woodbury has been stationed in Duluth for 6 years and fast became an integral part of the 148th as a commander of one of its divisions. His colleagues are anxious for any word on his location.
They're earnest. They are concerned. They're drifting in and out to offer whatever help they can provide.
That's money that they've raised in the private sector that they, Mr. Whittle indicated that they would bring in about $1.5 million for this venture that primarily goes to technology. Other than that, they get no more per student than we spend per student now. So we see this as a big win-win for us.
Many knew Major Peter Woodbury as one of the most experienced pilots in the 148th Fighter Wing. With more than 2,500 hours of flight time and nearly 1,200 hours in the F-16 alone, Peter fulfilled his lifelong dream of becoming a pilot.
He died doing what he loved the very, very best, aside from being with his family, which was flying airplanes and serving his nation.
Friends and family remember him as a man who put others first.
The essence of Pete was the fact that he treated every person with respect, with dignity. He was a class act. He was a very nice man, very cordial man, a ready smile. He was truly a great guy.
Friends also say he loved flying, but he lived for his family.
He built a fort for those kids, and he would be out playing in it with them, and you'd often see him out in the ball, tossing a ball with Ben, or taking him canoeing or fishing. He was just a real great family man.
Marcia remembers a time when she wanted to buy a new car, so she asked Peter about his Mazda.
And he says, "Oh, I love that car because you sit behind it and you can pretend you're driving the plane." I love to fly, you know. He'd laugh, and he just had this great upbeat way about him. Everyone that knew him, I'm sure, has a profound sense of loss. I know I do. The neighborhood he's from does. He was one of these kinds of people that could only touch your life in a very wonderful way because he loved life so. And it was very contagious.
Visitation for Major Peter Woodbury will be on Monday from 5 to 8 in the evening at Jarvie Dowd Chapel. 925 East 4th Street in Duluth. The funeral will be held on Tuesday at 11 in the morning at the First United Methodist Church, 230 East Skyline Parkway.
This already strange case has taken another bizarre twist. Jana Martineau, the 17-year-old mother of a 14-month-old boy, has been charged in Carleton County with aiding and abetting first-degree murder. The 16-year-old boyfriend, Brandon Campbell, is charged with the actual crime of first-degree murder. A grand jury came down with the indictments after they thought there was enough evidence to charge them both. Court documents don't specify what evidence the grand jury had to charge the mother of the child. However, Martineau's aunt says Jana changed her story as to where she was when the alleged abuse took place. Apparently, she first told police she wasn't home, then later told police she was in the house playing a video game at the time. The arrest and charges brought against the mother have shocked neighbors and the community.
They kept themselves over there. They didn't really come over here. We talked once or twice since I lived here, so really I don't know nothing much about them at all.
Jake Flatt, who lives next door to the Martineaus, has a son just 1 month older than Jana's child. He says he can't believe his neighbors are accused of something so brutal.
It's not right. I just don't see how anybody can justify killing a little baby like this size. That's just not right.
In Carleton County, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
The snow is higher in the box and can't see it, so you just keep the mail to the next day until they get it cleaned out.
Last weekend's storm only brought 6 inches of accumulation, but unrelenting wind has turned that snow into a house-eating, road-clogging mess. Everyday activity has nearly stopped as crews tried to clear the monster drifts.
It's senseless to even try to go through those drifts down there. I mean, you know, golly Neds, why get hung up in it? And they can't, somebody else coming from the other way can't see you? Hey, you're going to be ground up.
Not everybody heeded those words of advice, though. These 2 men spent the night in one of those snowdrifts, but handled the situation with typical Minnesota nonchalance.
Actually, we had some donuts left from the noon lunch, so we fed every 2 hours we had half a donut. So, and our wives are going to call us on the phone every hour, so it wasn't too bad.
crews are beginning to catch up with the workload, and warmer temperatures should help that process. It may be a short-lived victory, though, because a new storm system will probably barrel through the Dakotas into the southwestern parts of Minnesota this weekend. From the Channel 6 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Anderson for Channel 6 News.
Hey.
The Bulldogs and the Badgers have already played this year. They split at Dane County back in November. Defenseman Jason Garotti missed that series with a hand injury, and a year ago he suffered a season-ending injury against the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, I was disappointed about my injury, but I mean, that's part of the game, so I just got to get back and start playing again, and yeah, I'm looking forward to playing them. Yeah, a year ago, actually, I blew my knee out playing against the Badgers, so kind of want to get back at them a little bit, so I'm looking forward to playing them. Yeah, it is. Everybody gets up for the Wisconsin series in Minnesota, of course, and it's a lot of fun playing them.
Garotti hopes his luck changes this weekend. Tom Hansen, Channel 6 Sports.